We've appreciate everybody showing up today. We've got a panel that we're going to discuss labor shortage and how it impacts in the construction market space, and so it's something that the four of us think about every day, and we have different perspectives on how and that impacts our customers' lives and people in our industry's lives, and how we might be able to start thinking about it in a little more detail and do things maybe that will help us in the long run, kind of address some of this issue. So today there are four of us here on the panel. My name's Glenn West. I'm the head of growth here at BuildOps. I've spent the last 30 years working in construction software, mostly around construction accounting, but also have time with field service management, project management, estimating, property management. So my real drive here over my lifetime has been how do we get software in the contractor world, starting way back in IBM and working my way now into the BuildOps world. And so are also on the panel with me are Nicole. You want to tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. So I am Nicole Bass. I'm the president of Service Professionals, and we work in the commercial HVAC service space in software and training. And more recently, working in all of the hands-on skilled trades space with an OJT logbook and jointhetrades.com. So our background and history is in commercial HVAC, but now we're moving into training, development, and recruitment for all skilled trades careers.
Great. Thank you. Brent, how about you?
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. My name is Brent Sheik. I'm with Arcoro. At Arcoro, we offer HR software spanning the entire employee lifecycle, and that lifecycle is everything from finding employees to hire, onboarding those employees, managing those employees, and then growing and retaining those employees. So our software takes care of all that. And I'm really excited to be in a vertical of construction, hard hat, and high compliance, because that's where I come from. My family owned a construction business growing up, and that's where I worked every summer. So I understand the market really well, and I'm really glad there's all these great softwares and services out there to help the industry.
Thanks, Brent. Tim?
Thanks, Glenn. Tim Monjo with ABC National. As you can see by the image there, it's just a little bit different than what my face looks like now. It's been a while since I've looked like that. But I've been in workforce development for over 20 years. I was in the United States Navy for 12 on submarines. So that makes me a little bit different, I guess, than most folks going down on something that's meant to sink. And then 20 or 15 years with contractors, and now 5 years with ABC National. And ABC National focuses on political advocacy for the construction industry, as well as workforce development and total human health.
Great. Thanks, Tim. So I think what's driving this for us and why we feel like it's really an important thing, and I'm sure all of you feel the same way, is that every time we turn around and from every perspective, we see in the contractor market space just a severe shortage of labor. And depending on who you talk to, we always get the same answer, that one of the biggest constraints companies have are finding qualified people that are interested in working in the trades. And this is a survey that's done by ABC that just talks about that, at the level of companies out there that are saying that they're experiencing that, and then what that's going to mean to us in the future. So we thought we'd break this down into 4 areas today. We'll talk about recruitment and how we get qualified people or people into the door, and then what does that mean for that, and how we can really kind of work to enhance that capability. And then once we get them in the door from a recruiting basis, how do we get them on board? How do we get them in the company? How do we get them moved through, trained, all the things that you do in an onboarding process? And then once we have them as an employee, we want to make sure we retain them. And so what are some of the things we can do around that? Where do we look? What are we hearing? What are we seeing? Because once you spend the time and invest it in the person, you don't want them leaving. And so there are things we can do there. And then I think the last one we'll talk about, how do we attract younger folks into the industry, and what's important to them, and what are we seeing in the market space, and what are some of the tools that you might consider to get people interested. And so kind of first off here, we're gonna talk about the recruitment side. So it looks like there's just a fairly high number of people that are looking for jobs, and they're looking on their mobile device, and they're trying to find that, but not exactly sure necessarily on where they go, and how the recruitment process works in there, and what the tools are that are out there. So Nicole, just a kind of from your perspective, what do you think is going on in the recruitment side? What do you think is important? What's working, and what are you seeing in your practice?
No, that's a lot. You know, we were for 17 years, we've been focused actually on the sales side of commercial HVAC, or actually for the first 14 years of it, 13. And what we found was that the market was shifting in the sense that people started telling us, like, we love that you help drive sales. However, we're terrified of selling right now because we're not sure we're going to be able to get the labor to meet the demand of the sales that we've got. And that's where our training started to pivot, and we started to talk more about technician training and recruitment. And recruitment is an incredibly common topic amongst all of our contractors that we work with, because unfortunately, the labor demand means that loyalty is at an all-time low, is what we're seeing amongst technicians. They know that, hey, if they don't feel that they're being treated right, if they feel like there's a better offer somewhere else, they could quit their job today and be hired likely in the same day, if not by tomorrow. So recruitment practices and retention practices, and I know we'll talk about that in a minute, have to be kind of seen in a different light in order to meet the demand of the sales. When it comes to applicant tracking systems, actually, I think this is a topic that's probably better served by Brent. It's a bit of what you guys do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Nicole. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. It is getting really tough to find people because people are looking in different ways. And we hear this all the time when we're in sales cycles with our clients is, how do we, and well, actually that's a question we ask them is like, how do you find your talent? And it ranges a broad spectrum of ways. And the number one way that we're seeing right now is, invest in the applicant tracking system. So that's something that we do offer here at Arcoro. And really the benefits of that is becoming visible. Everybody wants to be visible online nowadays when it comes to social media, when it comes to companies getting their product out there. But it's equally as important for people to be visible when it comes to getting your jobs out there. So getting your company on job boards, both national and local, really, really important. But also, you want to further refine that talent pool by getting your jobs out there, not only on those big job boards, but also some focused job boards, some targeted job boards, construction focused job boards, HVAC concentric job boards, things like that. You do shorten the talent pool there, but you also concentrate it. And that allows you to find great employees out there that are looking for what you're offering. Somebody in HVACs want to work for an HVAC company. It's a really good alignment there. And when you have that alignment, Nicole, you talked about retention. That's the first step in retention, making sure that you and the person you're hiring are aligned. So one big piece of the applicant tracking piece there, absolutely.
And just one reminder here, we're going to pop up a poll question for you, kind of in each topic. So when you see it pop up, we're just looking to see if you can answer that for us as we go. So Tim, what do you see in ABC around the recruitment side of the house?
Well, so interestingly enough, I think the biggest tragedy we have for the construction industry is the fact that it is seen as less than a four-year degree or going to college. That trend is shifting. Nicole is going to talk about that a little bit later on in our presentation, but that trend is shifting with the focus on the trades and the low barrier to entry, the higher wages, the earn while you learn model, and things like that. So I think we're moving in the right direction, but the door coming into the industry is much smaller than the door exiting. One of the biggest for the survey that we just completed earlier this year, one of the biggest issues with the skilled workforce shortage is the exodus of the baby boomers, right? They're retiring, they're taking that knowledge with them. And that is potentially going to create a big issue, considering that every year the need for workers continues to increase, and it kind of compounds year over year.
As I've been out and talking to people, and I've got older kids and they have friends, it's always amazing to me when you talk to parents and they're talking about college, and when you start to talk to them about the trades and how easy it is to get a person into the trades and get them kind of going through the process and how lucrative the investment is, and it's a lifelong kind of payback, where once you are certified in a trade, it seems like you can get a job anywhere you want. It's like, how do we do that in the language side of this? Or how do what are the things that we should be putting in the job board so that it catches people's eyes? And
I have a few thoughts on that, because I had a really interesting experience in that, in working with all of these HVAC contractors, they're offering a free education to people who want to become a commercial HVAC technician. And I see what those techs are making coming out of their 4-year apprenticeship program. And I'm just like, man, why aren't people clamoring for these jobs? This is crazy. So I took to social media, where the young audience is, and said, hey, do you guys know that these jobs exist? And I started painting a picture of what a day in the life of a commercial HVAC technician is. And I went from maybe 10 followers to 85,000 followers in just a couple of weeks' time. People messaging me saying, hey, what? How do I get into? They don't even know that they exist. And the sad reality is that 70% of skilled trades careers are still found through word of mouth. So Glenn, you said they're easy to get into. They are, once you find the opportunity. And you're willing to, invest in yourself and all this kind of stuff, and work hard. But it's not as easy as it seems, because they're not so readily available, not so very present online. When you do find an online job posting for a skilled trades career, it's very tactical in nature. It's, you're going to do this, this, and this. We want you to have this, that, and that. And it's written usually in the nomenclature, like in the language of that trade, and it's Greek to a lot of people. Could you imagine if you read a job posting that described what your daily tasks were going to be for an accountant position? Like, nobody would apply for that job. It doesn't say you're going to come, you're going to sit at a desk all day, and you're going to think about a new chair every day. Like, it's highlighting the wrong parts of the job. There's a lot of really exciting parts of, if I just use commercial HVAC, you get to be in a different environment all the time. You get to work in manufacturing plants and critical facilities, and it's like every day on the job is a day of how it's made, right? And you're working on complex systems, where if you aren't able to solve the problem, the modern world doesn't exist without HVAC. That's the type of language that needs to be kind of widely distributed out there. And whenever you write your job posts, it needs to be appealing to people. If you're trying to get entry-level people in, or people who are maybe only have a little bit of experience, and you want to offer them a career path, you got to talk about that in the post, and not necessarily, don't even use the word refrigerant anywhere in your post. It doesn't matter. Talk about what the value proposition for it is coming to your company, not necessarily what you're going to do daily on the job. We created jointhetrades.com exactly for that reason. It was to say, look, all right, just nix the job post then. If this is going to be the barrier to people starting, then just let's brag on your company. And so we pull people into jointhetrades.com and tell them, here's why this career is cool, and here's why this career is cool. And then once somebody is interested in it, then they can search for employers near them that offer those trades. And so we take that job post model kind of out of the equation, because it gets a bit confusing and isn't as fiddly as some other posts you've seen. I'll give one more example. I think I saw a job post to work for, it was a major Fortune 100 company. And the job post spent half of the time talking about how much they care about the earth and sustainability, and all that. Had nothing to do with what that person was going to do day in and day out on that job. But they wanted to know that they were working for a good organization, and they were trying to promote how good of an organization they are and how they're part of a bigger picture. And if we could just use a little bit of that in the skilled trades, I think it would attract more people, attract by being attractive.
Great, thanks.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with Nicole. I mean, it's one of those things where we need to make sure that folks realize that it is a life-changing career opportunity, right? That is life-changing money. That is life-changing skills. That is something that cannot be taken away from them. Those are important things to share. Construction is most definitely an opportunity for someone to achieve the American dream. That is a direct path to that. 100%.
Fastest track to entrepreneurship.
Let's do this. Let's move on. So we'll talk about onboarding. So now we have somebody who's interested, and we're moving them into the company now, and we go through an onboarding process. I think, Brent, your products, your industry has specialized tools to help us work through that. Tell us a little bit about what's out there.
Yeah, yeah, it does, Glenn. Thank you. And full disclosure, onboarding is my favorite module that we offer here at Arcoro. Not only is it a great second step towards that retention piece, but it is also super flexible, because construction, you need to be flexible these days. In the trade business, you got to be flexible. So, you're right. We just spent all this time, finding these great employees to work for our companies, getting their applications in, and then hiring them. Now it's our responsibility to give them a good first impression of our company. And that's what you do with onboarding. Having a nice and easy onboarding process is a great step in that right direction of retaining that employee. We talked about, giving them that first great impression, but, there's multiple ways to do that. One of my favorite pieces of our software is, that personalized experience, adding a welcome video that will show off your company's culture, get them excited that they joined the company, and, help them bond with the company straight from onboarding, straight from the get-go. So that's a really important piece for me. And another piece is, providing flexibility and convenience to the onboarding process, allowing an employee to onboard when it's convenient for them, whether that's coming to the office and onboarding, whether that's onboarding directly from the job site. We have a way to do that. It's really great for our union-based companies. A lot of times people will show up at the job site, they need to work that day. Let's go ahead and hand them an iPad, get them onboarded, and not send them back to the back office. And then for your office employees, they can onboard in advance, like I did when I started with Arcoro. So really great way to, show a great first impression of the company and to celebrate your culture as you're bringing a new employee in.
Just a quick question. On the onboarding side, I always think of all the forms we have to sign and all of the disclaimers you have to do. And I need to have that. I need this form and I need that form. And are you automating that process so that it's fast and it's easy and it's not overwhelming, and it's something that isn't going to put a bad taste in someone's mouth as they go through that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So in our onboarding module, everything is in that. Yeah, you're correct there. So we streamline all that process. Also to the state level too. A lot of times in the trades and the construction, your paperwork will differ from state to state, and we have that built into our system too. So you don't have to worry about an audit coming around and somebody signing the wrong paperwork. And then there's also a way in our system where you can't move forward without completing all the required fields. So no more getting incomplete data back, no more having to pull somebody back into the office when they're out there working to sign more paperwork. You can do it all electronically, and you could have the peace of mind knowing that it's all taken care of, and you are good with all the compliance needs as well. So yeah, great question.
Nicole, what do you see from your perspective?
I think it's continuing the momentum, and I know this is something that Tim is passionate about as well. Really spotlighting that value proposition for the technician or for the employee, and making sure that they understand everything that you offer as a company up front. Even if they're not going to get exposed to it right away, they need to know everything that goes into why this is the greatest place you could have possibly decided to work. And if you don't feel that you have that offering, if you don't have the things where you're investing in your people and offering them continued development, and that would be step one. You need to step backwards and say, what do we get to brag on for our value proposition, our employee talent proposition? And if that kind of list comes up empty, then that would be step one, right? Back up and say, what is it that we have to offer that others don't? Because they're going to learn it in their onboarding cycle. Tim, I know this is a subject you're passionate about. What would you add to that?
As far as the employee value proposition, when folks think about what that means, right? That's the unique offering the company provides to employees for the knowledge, skills, abilities, and commitment they bring to the organization. A lot of folks think that that's pay and benefits. Like you said, it can be a lot more than pay and benefits. It could be an opportunity to be an instructor in the future, or be part of committees, be recognized in the organization as a subject matter expert. It could be many things, right? Making sure that those things are understood and clear. Making sure that they're aware of any educational and career guidance opportunities. Things like that are going to go a long way. They want to see that a company has an interest in them, and where they want to go. If you'll let me be philosophical for a minute, it's kind of like a tapestry. The organization is kind of like a tapestry, right? And you're trying to show them how their thread fits in the fabric of the organization, and that's a great way to do it. Another piece is sharing the company's mission, vision, and values. This cannot be understated or even overstated how important that is, because you could have a statement of value that is provide value to your clients. Well, the word value may mean different things to different people. You want to make sure that you share with these folks what you mean by your mission, your vision, and value. These three words are important. They provide a clear and definitive picture of what the organization does, how the work should be accomplished, and what the organization aspires to be in the future. This is inspirational for anyone that's new to the organization, and helps ground them, so that they can better engage with the organization and even more quickly integrate into your teams.
Pay and benefits are a bare minimum and basically a legal requirement. If that's sort of the baseline, you gotta pay them, you gotta provide them benefits. Now, what are you gonna do that sets yourself apart from your competitors? And you had a really good point. Like, how do you impact your customers? How do you impact the environment? What's the bigger picture? And that's the thing that really Gen Zers care a whole lot about, is what are they a part of? What's the tapestry look like, and how does their thread contribute? They care a whole lot more about that than a lot of other generations have.
Absolutely.
Well said. Yeah.
All right, that's great info on the onboarding side. So let's do this. Let's move on a little bit, and we'll go back to retention. So got people onboarded, got them trained, they're in the field, they're working for us, everything looks great. How do we keep them happy? How do we keep them in our world? How do we keep them set up with us? What do we do? So Tim, I was in the last section, I was going to talk a little bit about associations. I've been in one of the same associations for 30 years, construction financial management. And as I've moved from company to company, I've always stayed with that. And for me, that was one of the retention points. Every time I moved companies, I just felt strongly that there are associations, there are groups that support the company as well as the employee. So that to me was a big retention point. Tell me about ABC and how do you think about retention?
So when I think about retention, I'm really kind of thinking about it more overall, more broadly than just potentially what ABC does or what a particular organization does. Associations are amazingly important, right? ABC focuses on political advocacy for the construction industry, with over 87% of construction practitioners not belonging to a union or whatever the case is, right? ABC is not anti-union. It's just we believe that people should be able to work in an environment that they feel comfortable with. So when I think about retention, I think that one of the most effective strategies that an organization can deploy to enhance engagement is coaching, mentoring, and empowerment. Those three things are very important. They provide a framework for the employees' growth while providing a system of support that builds confidence and strong relationships of trust with their leadership and with their team members. Concurrently, it allows team leaders to ascertain each team member's strengths and weaknesses to better guide them in their career development and daily and through the organization's talent management program. Also, through this type of one-on-one engagement, team leaders can empower their employees to take on new and more challenging tasks and assignments, while also identifying high potential employees, which is going to be critical to succession planning and the future of the organization. It's also important to note with a high potential employee, when they're identified, an understanding of what motivates them and where they want to see their career go is critical. For example, not everyone wants to be in a leadership role, and pushing them into a leadership position could be absolutely disastrous and could cause a great employee to actually look for work somewhere else. As far as empowerment, the reason why it's powerful is it allows team members to be valued because they have a certain level of autonomy with making decisions about how tasks are completed, right? Nobody likes to be told exactly how to do their job. You're hiring them to do something. I'll give them the flexibility to decide how to get from point A to point B as long as it meets the standards and things like that. And having coaching and mentoring in place allows your leadership to feel comfortable loosening those reins and allowing those employees to feel empowered. Now, there is one caveat to that that's very important, and I think Nicole's going to mention this as well, is you have to make sure that your leadership has the proper temperament and they're ready for those kind of coaching and mentoring activities. These
Absolutely.
are highly interpersonal skill activities that rely heavily upon occupational experience, communication skills, building relationships and trust, emotional intelligence, self-awareness. And if a team member isn't ready for those kind of activities, then those coaching and mentoring programs kind of die on the vine and ended up in a drawer somewhere, never to be seen again. So from my perspective, from a general workforce development perspective, coaching, mentoring, and empowering are powerful tools for keeping your workforce engaged, focused, and as I like to say, it's a team education effort. The team is working together to educate each other. So I see that as a win.
Nicole, if those are new concepts for contractors, right? They're typically great at the trades. This is very touchy-feely when we start dealing with people and the people skills. Are there places they can reach out and get help with these types of concepts?
Absolutely. Well, us first of all, but there's okay. I was gonna say ABC as well. There are options out there. So it seems daunting when you present the problem of you take somebody who's highly skilled in the field, the customers love them, and they can solve just about every problem out there. And then you make them a manager, and that seems like an obvious promotion, except for now you're asking them to do a set of skills that are completely different than anything they've ever done in the past, and they haven't been equipped for it. They haven't been prepared for it. And now you run the risk of not only losing this highly skilled person because they feel this sense of failure, but also you can lose some other people out in the field because they've got poor leadership from this person because they were never trained for it. So you're asking this person to take on a quasi administrative role, a role that requires a different sort of communication than they've ever experienced in their life, management of other people. They've never done that. And then just saying, good luck. And it's particularly challenging for those who are now, expected to have any responsibility over a P&L or financials or anything like that. Just a completely different skill set without any experience. So yeah, if you're going to put somebody in that position, you've got to Tim's point, you got to make sure they want it. If they don't want it, then it's never going to work out. And then two, you got to make sure that they're equipped for it. You'd never give a technician, you never send them out to go work on a unit without giving them a bag of tools. So it's the same thing. They've got to be equipped for it. Otherwise, you're setting them up for failure, setting yourself up for failure. And we work with people on that. I know Tim and them work with people on that. There are resources out there, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to come up with it from scratch.
Hey, Brent, do you have a university concept in some of your tools where you like automated learning tools, like people can start to get training on some of these concepts, maybe aren't out of work on an RTU, but some advanced learning around people skills? Are there things like that available out there?
Yeah, there is. And I think me and Tim must have shared notes or something like that because I had training, feedback, and mentorship on mine. So, and then Nicole mentioned as well. So we're all very aligned on that. But yeah, Glenn, great question. So, we do have a learning management system that's an open library. So, you could upload any kind of personalized training that you like, and the training is important, and developing a career path, as you said. Some people don't want to be a leader, some people don't want to be a manager, but they do want to be the best at what they're currently doing. And so, sitting down with that person, discussing their learning path, getting to know them as a person, and then bring in performance reviews, which is another module that we offer, to make sure that, they're continuing on that path. If somebody's messing up at a job, you want to catch it early and provide that coaching and mentorship. And that's, something that performance reviews do as well. But yeah, back to your question, Glenn, within our training module, yeah, you can upload really any kind of trainings you'd like. Whether that's, safety trainings, OSHA trainings, new hire trainings, and then, those mentorship programs as well. So that's something that's really important to a lot of companies out there nowadays.
And just one more thing, I apologize. ABC does offer 800. We have 800 management, leadership, safety, and craft education courses across our 67 chapters, along with 450 registered apprenticeship programs. So we do have tools available, like Nicole said, not to repeat or to reinvent the wheel, to cover just about any type of education requirement that an organization would have or
Great.
need.
Great.
And then
Great.
ours is a much more niche commercial HVAC service. We have a 3.5 month long service managers leadership development program that we run for that very specific role.
Awesome. Great info on that. So let's kind of hit the last topic, and how do you attract young talent? From the build ops perspective, we're an operational ERP, so we're not an accounting system. We're a software solution that's really driven around operations, and it's field service, project management, time capture. And what we find is, or what I found over the years, is you bring people in the organization, and if you don't give them technology that supports your company, there's a big letdown. That when they're happy, they're excited, they want to go out in the field. If you don't give them a great mobile device, you don't give them a great experience with what you're doing, if you're not providing them with the state-of-the-art technology, they notice it immediately. Most of these folks are coming, they've spent their life on their phone or their tablets, they're used to it, a certain type of experience with technology, and we need to make sure that experience moves into not only from their personal life, but into the way they work, how they work, where they work. And I think those tools go a long way when we have people coming in the door to say, yeah, we are a technology-based company. We are going to provide you with the best tools available. And they run the full spectrum across the whole process. So things can be really cutting edge, like virtual reality, but they can also be just something as simple as, how am I getting out to a job site, and how do I get directions, and can I quickly call the person out there? And when I'm there, how do I take pictures and videos? And is there a way I can get help quickly while I'm in the field? And how do I get immediate access to manuals? And how do I figure out what codes are, resolution codes? And there's all the things that technology allows us to bring to people that are in the field. And those young folks are used to that. If you try to put an old technology play into the younger, it falls down on them very quickly. So we see that in build ops, and that's what we look at it as. We're a heavy technology company. I know there's more to attracting the talent, but that, for us, that's a big one. What do you think, Nicole, on that?
The exact same thing. We have, so our apprenticeship program is 100% online, the classroom portion of it. And so instead of them having to drive to school they do all of it on their phone, they do it on a tablet, and it's simulations, videos, reading, all of this. And what we see is that this younger generation grabs onto it really quick, and they're like, oh, cool, yes, this makes sense to me. It's something that, especially a lot of them went through that type of education through COVID, right? Their last years of high school, or maybe, anyway, so it translates very quickly to them and makes sense. The majority of your learning and in a hands-on career is on the job. The classroom only represents like 7% of it, and 93% of it is on the job training. And so with that, taking that classroom portion and saying, look, this is an online class, they go, oh, this makes sense to me. And we've had a lot of our companies, they're able to use that tool to recruit in. They're like, we're going to give you an education. I see the stat you have on the screen, actually. That's one that I saw in an article as well. So 99% of young people wanted to go to college 10 years ago, or they wanted to pursue a college degree. These days, they're not quite seeing the ROI on it, or not everyone is. And so only 49% want to go. That doesn't mean that they don't want an education. They just don't want to go into all of that debt. It doesn't mean they don't want a solid career path, and that they don't want to work for a quality organization, and they're not willing to work hard. It just means that they don't see the ROI on the college debt anymore. So being able to offer these modern, demonstrate that you are a modern company who's investing in modern resources and providing all of the structured education that they would want has helped a lot. Now, I do want to say, on the flip side of that, is that once you get past a certain age, there are folks who are like, we're not there for the online thing. I want to be in the classroom. And I think that you have both of those audiences, but that younger generation is certainly open to the online learning component.
Tim, in ABC, are you seeing the same experience for people that are in your programs?
Yes, the way that our registered apprenticeship programs are set up, there's chapters that do in classroom education, spend a lot of time in the lab, OJT, right? We have chapters that do the education virtually because there's sort of a distributed workforce. I mean, Texas is a great example, right? It's a massive state. There's, we don't have any chapters necessarily over in West Texas, but we do have contractors that are working in West Texas, large contractors, right? And they may be using registered apprenticeship, and it'll be a virtual format. The one thing I want to say when we talk about attracting young talent beyond just the education side of things, I think it's important to realize that for a lot of folks, right, when they think of construction, they think of the highway that's been being worked on for 5 years that backs up the planet every time traffic rolls through, or housing, residential areas going up. And that's what they know. They don't know that there's commercial. They don't know that there's, heavy industrial. There's turnarounds that they can, start working or things like that. They're just not aware of what construction offers. They just think it's like, hey, I'm going to stand on the road and flip a sign, right? And that's just one small piece of the industry that's available. And I think it's important that we take advantage of willing young rising stars and organizations and have them come out and tell their story of how they entered the industry and how the industry impacted their life when they're making community engagements at like schools or career fairs or things like that, classroom visits, whatever it is. We need to share why we love construction and why it's important and why it's necessary and how it can benefit them. And then we also need to bring technology in the classroom, man. They love to be educated and entertained at the same time. I don't like edutainment as a word, but that's truly what it is, man. Bring the drone in, let them touch it, bring Spot the dog in, and talk about 3D modeling a space, bring in the headset and let them walk through a virtual project. I mean, good Lord, they love that stuff, right? Day in the career of X on of Oculus is absolutely amazing. Things like that are what's going to help us knock down the door. And the last thing I'll say, because I don't want to take up too much time, because I could talk forever probably. We need to make sure that we are engaging with the young people's influencers, right? I don't mean like necessarily YouTube and things like that, but their parents, their counselors, their teachers. We need to make sure that when we're doing these visits and things like that, that we're giving them information, because what we have found at ABC is the counselors and teachers don't necessarily know what construction is all about. For a lot of these folks, that's, believe it or not, that's where they send the kids that maybe have trouble sitting in the classroom.
Yeah, 100%. We have a guidance counselor campaign we're building out right now. That's a really good point.
Brent, what do you folks see on this on the attraction side of the house?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's made some really great points here. And yeah, this is the future of construction. This is who's going to be taking these jobs. So I think the big piece that hasn't been talked about yet are these apprenticeships. Getting them in, figuring out where their interests lie, whether that's in accounting or building or project managing. Really get them in early to decide like, hey, which direction do I want to go here before we, get on that learning path, before I start with this company, things like that. So, being able to have apprenticeships within your ATS is really important nowadays too. Just gives you more swings at the bat when it comes to hiring the right people. So that's one big one I wanted to call out there. But yeah, I mean, the panel's done a really good job of, talking about the young talent, because that's going to be very, very important as we move forward here.
So painting a picture, because I think it's tough for an 18-year-old to kind of put everything together. It's not gonna be easy for them to see how they get from out of high school to being an apprentice and then being a journeyman and then being being out there in the field. That's the type of thing I think, you're right. We need to get parents to help and schools to help and and get people to think about it differently. And then I think some of the tools that we are seeing, like some of the AI components I've seen recently, have really been interesting to help people in the field and enhance their learning experience. Because everybody gets nervous about I'm a new tech in the field, and they put me in a truck and I'm out and I've got to go fix some unit. A lot of the AI out there right now will help them understand what unit they're on, what the code means, that the problem code they have, what the resolution might be, where's a manual that I can find, maybe access to someone to help them to understand what's going on there. And that was never there, right? It was more of a structured approach where you had to go to class and sit and find somebody and then sit next to somebody in a truck for a year and have them help you along. And I think that we've changed the industry enough. I don't think the world knows how much time and energy has been spent changing construction to make it really very easy to get in here and lucrative and a long-term commitment. You do have a career. And to me, it's like being a nurse. Every nurse I know could quit their job today and move to another state and have a job tomorrow. And I think an HVAC tech is exactly the same thing. If you know what you're doing, you've got a job for the rest of your life. And there's something to be said for that.
Absolutely.
It's been, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
Oh, all I was going to say, and I promise I'll shut up. The construction industry is one of the easiest career choices where you can be an entrepreneur. And I think that's going to be exceptionally attractive to Gen Z. They seem to see themselves as an entrepreneurial generation, and you can spend 4 or 5 years learning your trade and becoming the best at it, and then start your own company and just go from there. And the sky's the limit.
Absolutely. We've seen it over and over again, right?
Yeah.
No, but I think they are, the good news is I think they are turning around to it. And I think it's conversations like this and more awareness on leadership development that's needed at the company level, the mentorship development. But they are seeing it. They're calling Gen Zers the tool belt generation because more Gen Zers are joining the trades than previous generations. And we talked about the guidance counselors who aren't, maybe advocating for these as skilled trades careers, but they're part of the last 4 generations of people who have been, directed to either college or the military. Those were the 2 paths that you really had, college or the military. And there's this huge lane in between those 2 that's also a great career choice. But the guidance counselors weren't educated on those either. Their guidance counselors were my age, or maybe a little bit older and a little bit younger, but I was taught college or the military, so they don't know either. The majority of my following on social media are moms, right? That's my audience. That listens to me. It's moms who are like, what? And I think it takes more of these conversations and equipping the guidance counselors and the teachers with where do they go to learn more information. And it's starting though. I think that's the good news.
It's a great point. So kind of to close things off here, we just wanted to give you a couple takeaways as we go. Just want you to start thinking about how to do smart hiring. What does that mean? How am I going to do that process? How do I get somebody in the company and make it a really strong experience so that they do love the company and they are excited about where they're going and what you offer them and what you've got going on, and then keeping those folks engaged. And then how do we get young people into this? So I think all of these are completely related. And if you do them all well, you probably will get as many people as you need. I think if you miss 1 or 2 in the 4, it does make it tough. So I think it's important to cover each one of these as we go along. And our panel can help with any of those environments. And I think we are going to kind of keep moving along here. So thanks. First, I'd like to thank everybody on the panel. Appreciate your time. I know everybody's busy out there, but we feel like this is really important, and you're bringing a lot of great information about this. And we will be sending the deck and recording out to everybody that's involved, and you'll get contact information for all of us. So if there's specific things you want to dig deeper into, you'll be able to contact any of us, and we're happy to help. And this will be going out to you here very shortly. So thanks again for your time. And let us know if there's anything we can do to help.
Thank you.